Why don't people read research after PT school? Let's face it, research is hard to read, it's dry, it's boring, and sometimes you feel like there are better ways to spend your time. I'm by no means an expert in reading research, but research articles is our best way to get primary information. Here are a couple reasons why reading research is so hard. Confirmation bias, aka you look for research that reinforces your own beliefs. Regardless of who you are, we all have our own biases, and it could be due to a lot of variables. Nature versus nurture, upbringing, our environment, our education, all these things affect us to a certain degree, and we're shaped by it, and we're just all so different. We now have huge research search engines online that provides us with an abundance of research information. If you have a bias for wearing supportive shoes and corrective orthotics, you would naturally gravitate towards reading research that supports your own view because of confirmation bias. And naturally, it would be really challenging to read research supporting opposing views. Going along with the example of custom orthotics, of course, you can find research that supports the use of custom orthotics, but you can also find articles that say cheap $20 prefabricated orthotics works just as well in the long run as expensive orthotics that cost hundreds of dollars. And so instead of focusing so much on the shoe or the way the insole is made, what about the other factors? Why don't we look at the person's activity level? Did they have a spike in their training load recently? Do they have the required range of motion to do whatever they want to do? Do they have good motor control or landing mechanics? There are so many factors that can contribute to symptom presentation. I think sometimes it's important to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Remember, clinical practice is great, and there's never one clear answer for all patients. And then there's this thing called predatory journals. So while search engines have made our lives really easy by providing us with huge databases of information, it also has created a problem, and that's predatory journals. I first heard about this from listening to the PT Inquest podcast, episode 144. I highly recommend listening to this because it was pretty eye-opening. Basically, we really have to be careful of where we get information from these days because everything's online and anybody can upload information online, including me. So there are these predatory journals that will publish whatever article that you send them, as long as you pay them money. And despite what they claim, they don't have any type of standard or peer review process before approving the publication. And just to prove a point and test it out, these guys made a fake patient, and the research article was about if manual therapy can bring someone back to life, which sounds completely ridiculous. So in the article they performed 250 spinal manipulations on a fake deceased patient and claimed that it brought him back to life. Clearly, this is something completely absurd. So they sent this article in to get approved, and they got it back with no questions asked. Nothing was changed, there was no comment, and all you had to do was to pay. And that's it, you can get it published. How crazy is that? So we have to be careful where we get our information from, especially because there's such a huge amount of information online. So now you may be thinking, where can I get my information then? So some good places to start are BJSM, AJSM, and JOSPT, and pretty much anything from the APTA. And on top of all that, there's fresh new information being published every single day. And because we're all busy people, we just don't have enough time to go through all the research. So how do we even navigate this crazy world of PT research? Honestly, for me, I think the best way to start is by listening to the PT Inquest podcast. Eric Mira and JW Madison are the hosts of the podcast, and they do a good job of picking and dissecting one research article every episode. They talk about everything from how the research was conducted and how it can be applied to clinical practice. I think there is value in just listening to how they interpret a research article. For example, they always look at the methods of the research article so they can figure out how the data was gathered. And the more you listen to them, the more you can start developing your own sense of the research process, how the methods was designed, different types of blinding, and just the nitty-gritty stuff of research. Keep in mind that I am by no means an expert at reading or interpreting research. I'm just a new grad PT trying to share some of my thoughts about navigating this world of PT research. I hope you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, let me know.